Aircraft carriers. You either love them or hate them. A good aircraft carrier player can dominate the battlefield, and I'm gonna do my own tier list of the aircraft carriers I think which is the best in the game. And we will start by talking about the countries and the ships. The following ships and countries in this list are Japan, with Hosho, Ryujo, Shoukaku. United States, with Langley, Ranger, Independence, Lexington and Midway. United Kingdom, with Hermes and Furious. USSR, with Komsomolets and Serov. France, with Béarn. And Italy, with Aquila. Sorry if I butchered some of those names. In this video, I'm not gonna begin from F, since I don't consider any aircraft carrier to be bad in the game. Types of plane ordnances. There are H rockets. They are good against DDs and lightly armored targets and causes fires. However, they have low penetration and does low damage. Torpedoes. They are good against most ships, does huge amounts of damage, causes flooding. However, can be dodged easily by DDs and can stack in certain situations and can be tricky to aim. HE bombs. They are good against most ships, causes fires, does good amounts of damage. However, they can be dodged easily by DDs and other ships in certain situations, and some have low penetration. AP rockets. They're good against cruisers, they do little damage. However, they're not efficient against DDs or other lightly armored targets. They are usually bad against battleships and does not cause fires. AP bombs. They're very good against heavily armored targets like battleships. It does little damage. However, it can go through lightly armored targets and does not cause fires and can be dodged easily by DDs. Skip bombers. They're easy to aim, good in multiple situations, causes fires. However, it can be dodged by DDs and other ships in some situations and does not do the same amounts of damage as HE bombs or AP bombs in my opinion. Now, after explaining some of the basics, then let's begin with the video. Starting with D tier. The Aquila is a very unique ship. It's only found in the Italian tech tree. Well, it's not a tech tree vehicle in a sense, since it's only a premium variant. But the Aquila has torpedo bombers, AP rockets, and yeah, that's it. It doesn't have anything more. It has 24 in total AP rockets and 18 torpedo bombers. When you send them in a squadron, they are like this. In the AP rockets they send out 10 each time, which in 2 groups, so 5 attack in the same time. The torpedo bombers send in 6, which are 2 in each group. The AP rockets fires a huge amount of rockets, but in my experience, the AP rockets rarely do little damage. They are mostly useful against CVs, for what I've seen, because I've done a huge amount of damage in some CV aspect. But I don't. When you're playing a CV, you don't really want to attack the CVs in the beginning, considering that it's not the best choice because it's a risky target. Although, the huge amount of rockets that fires from the 2-5 groups of planes are very useful in a sense, but it lacks bombs or any HE bombs, so it cannot cause any fires. It may cause floodings, but the torpedoes in these ships are very slow. They only go about 30 knots, I'm sorry. And if I'm not mistaken, those are the slowest torpedoes in the game. They are very slow, and I would just... If you wanna pick a ship which has AP rockets or anything like that, I would just go for German carriers, considering that they have AP rockets, AP bombs, and the torpedoes that are way faster and way better in my opinion. Although it's one of my favorite ships in a way, considering it's very fun to play, even though it's not a very good carrier in my opinion. You can still have some fun playing this ship because it's so unique in its own way. But if you're new to carriers or just wanna start an Italian carrier, I would not start with the Italian Aquila, or I would not pick it at all. But in my opinion, it's not very good. Some might make good use of it, but I don't really like how it's used. I usually prefer Japanese or German carriers if I want to do citadel damage. But yeah, that's about it for the Aquila. Later on we're gonna go to the C tier, considering that this was the only D tier carrier I wanted to put in. Hermes. Hermes is a carrier in the British tech tree. Instead of having dive bombers, it has carpet bombers. The carpet bombers have a huge amount of bombs, especially this swordfish, which has 12 bombs each plane. It really sounds good, but in a sense they don't penetrate as much as usual HE bombs or AP bombs at all, but they are very good against destroyers and such. As for example, as you can see right now, I'm attacking one destroyer and I'm sending a huge load of carpet bombs on him, and yeah, 3 hit him, and of the 12 I've dropped. It's very easy to destroy destroyers with the carpet bombers, in my opinion. The torpedo bombers in this carrier are also pretty good. The torpedoes are very slow, but the thing that makes this aircraft carrier, especially in my sense, is that the torpedo bombers can slow down a lot, which is great if you want to do some tight turns and get every single corner in. For example, I'm gonna show you later a clip of where I managed to hit 3 torpedoes on a battleship in a couple of seconds. So yeah, let's see it right now.
Engaging enemy. Engaging enemy. Enemy battleship sunk.
The also thing that makes this plane, or I mean this ship, special for I mean, I don't know if it's really special in a sense, but I've managed to get some citadel damage on even destroyers and cruisers with only rockets. The HE rockets. I don't know why. The AP rockets usually always do that for me, but somehow the HE rockets on this aircraft carriers does citadel damage sometimes. For example, I've almost seen more citadel damage on these rockets than the Aquila, or maybe it can just be luck in my part or something, but yeah, sometimes I've seen the citadel damage on it. Also, that I forgot to mention is that almost all British carriers have huge amounts of HP on the planes. They have the most HP of any of the planes in the tech tree, if you compare the British tech tree compared to others. And it might be a good beginner carrier for you, but I wouldn't really recommend it, because later on I'm gonna explain some other carriers which I would rather recommend. But if you have some trouble losing planes or evading flak, then I would definitely recommend the British tech tree carriers for you, since they give you some wide variety of weapons, and they're almost like the American tech tree in a sense, considering the weapons. The only thing that makes them special are the carpet bombers. But yeah, let's continue to the next ship, which is Furious. The Furious is the second aircraft carrier you get in the British tech tree. In my opinion, it's a little bit better than the Hermes, but by a little bit. The thing I like about the Furious is that you get 6 torpedo bomber squadrons in an attack formation, so you send in 2 in each attack, which is better than 1. And you send in 6 of the carpet bomber squadrons, which means you send in 2 in each attack. The Furious also has better carpet bombers, in my opinion, since they drop almost the same amount as one of the swordfish, but they do penetrate more, and they're way more effective against battleships, which the Hermes has some problems against. The Furious is a pretty unique ship. For example, as all of the British aircraft carriers, they all have a lot of HP, but the design of the Furious is very unique, because you can see that it doesn't the deck doesn't fully extend to the ship part. It's almost like the Ryujo design, although the Ryujo is the Japanese aircraft carrier. But I haven't researched anything more in the British aircraft carrier tech tree, but they might be better or no. You can tell me in the comments if they get better. But I wouldn't put the British tech tree any higher than C tier, in my opinion. I mean, it's great that they have a lot of HP, that's really great, but other than that, I don't really like them that much. I, for example, prefer to play more risky with the American or Japanese, even though the American tech tree is way beginner friendly than the Japanese one. But in my opinion, I think you should think about which tech tree you should begin with, but I wouldn't pick the British one. As you can see in this clip, I'm getting attacked by a destroyer. I somehow managed to sink it with my secondary guns. I thought I was down for here, but I got some lucky hits in, and sound kit. But yeah, if you like it, you could tell me in the comments what I might be doing wrong when I'm playing the British carriers. But in my opinion, I don't really like them that much. But yeah, let's continue. The Weser is a Tier 6 German aircraft carrier. The Weser is unique in a sense that almost all German aircraft carrier has the AP rockets, although the only nations, for what I know, that has the AP rockets are Germany and Italy, although Italy only has one ship. The great thing about the Weser is, if you want to sink cruisers or battleships, this nation is definitely for you, because they are very good at sinking cruisers and battleships, because they can cause a wide variety of citadel damage. Although the reason why I put it at C tier is because, in my opinion, I just really prefer HE rockets compared to AP rockets. The AP rockets aren't bad, but wanting to cause fires like I like to do on the HE rockets, I just prefer it way more. Plus the HE rockets are way more useful against destroyers. Although, for example, in this clip, as you saw before, where I attacked the cruiser, I got 5 citadels, which is amazing. But if they get in an angle like this, you're not gonna penetrate as much. For example, I got 2 ricochets with rockets. But the torpedo bombers are very unique, since, if I'm not mistaken, the torpedoes on the torpedo bombers are the fastest torpedoes in the of all the carriers, if I'm not mistaken. Plus, having the high speed on the torpedo bombers and the planes in general is a very nice thing to have. Plus, if I'm not mistaken of the German carriers, I remember the Graf Speer, which was the, I think it was, for Graf Zeppelin, never mind, I'm sorry. I think it was the Graf Zeppelin, which had amazing secondary guns, plus a pretty good armor. But you're not really getting close quarters in an aircraft carrier. But the Weser is very fun to play, even though it's not one of my favorites, since it feels pretty lacking compared to the other carriers. There's other options in my opinion. But the AP dive bombers have a pretty unique diving tactic. They all start in a very high altitude, and then they just dive immediately down, compared to the other dive bombers, which go up and then down. So they just dive immediately. Some people might prefer that, but I don't really prefer that diving technique. But it's a pretty cool mechanic, I suppose. But yeah, if you like fast planes and AP rockets or fast torpedoes, this nation is probably definitely for you. But the Tier 4 Rhein is way better in my opinion, and I'll explain later on. But yeah, fast planes, citadel damage, and also fast fighters, which is great to have. But I wouldn't put it any higher than C+ in my opinion. It's a great carrier in some instances, but the lack of HE rockets or HE bombs doesn't fit me, but it might be for some players. But yeah, let's continue to the next tier, which is B. The Komsomolets is a Soviet aircraft carrier at Tier 4. It's the first Soviet aircraft carrier you get. in the game if you decide to research the Soviet aircraft carrier line. And the Soviet aircraft carrier line is unique since instead of, for example, let's compare the Langley compared to the Komsomolets. Instead of sending in 6 torpedo bombers and sending in 2 torpedo bombers in each attack, you send in all of the 3. For example, in this clip where I'm attacking a Charleston and sinking it with 3 of my torpedoes. The Komsomolets is a very good ship for a very good carrier main, because you can send in multiple attack groups simultaneously, and if you manage to hit all of the torpedoes or bombs, you will do immense amount of damage. However, the Soviet aircraft carrier line, if I'm not mistaken, has one of the lowest HP pools of any other nation in the game. For example, for what I've seen at least. So yeah, you will. There's a high chance that you will lose some of your planes in an attack run. But if you are good at evading flak or anti-air, then you will manage to put in a lot of hits in. The Komsomolets also comes equipped with the skip bombs. The skip bombs are very unique since they're only found in the French and the USSR aircraft carrier line. And the skip bombs has multiple sections where you can drop your skip bombs. There is the first line, which tells you where the bombs will hit, and then there's the second or maybe the third, if depending on what ship you have. And yeah, you can. It's basically a long-range bomber in that sense. The bombs will skip on the water and yeah, hit the ship further away. The thing I don't really like about the ship is that, sure, it's fun to send in all of the, for example, the attackers in the group, but the attackers, for what I've seen, takes a lot longer to fire the rockets compared to the other nations, which for me is a bummer, since it makes it very hard to, for example, hit destroyers or cruisers, which I find HE rockets very good at aiming for. The rockets aircraft is very great at disabling anti-air or dealing immense amounts of damage against cruisers if you have issues aiming at destroyers, for example, because the destroyers will see you shooting with your fighters and they will probably dodge you while yeah, they send in rockets later on. But if you're used to carriers and want a new experience, or just want to start a Soviet Tech tree, I would definitely say that the Soviet carriers can probably dominate the battlefield if you're very good at playing carriers. But I wouldn't put this ship any higher than B. But anyways, let's continue to the next ship, which is Serov. The Serov is the second carrier you get in the Soviet tech tree. It's the tier 6 Soviet carrier, which has the same features as the previous ship, kind of. But this ship also has, instead of sending in, for example, 3 torpedo bombers at the same time, they send in 5. Which is a huge upgrade compared to the previous ship, in my opinion. The Serov is, in my opinion, just a bigger improvement of the previous ship. Although, before recording this video, I actually got the new torpedo bombers and the new skip bombers. So I didn't actually get a good clip of them, but I have yeah, this is currently my best clip of what I had in my previous upgrade. But other than that, you have to keep in mind that you will definitely lose more planes at the higher tiers, especially since for example, I tried to attack some battleships or cruisers and I lost sometimes 2 or sometimes 3 planes at once. Although the amazing thing about the ship is that it has 5 torpedo bombers that can attack at the same time, which is very good. For example, if you manage to hit all of the torpedoes, you can delete 1/4 or 1/3 of, for example, a battleship's HP, and you will definitely cause flooding if you're lucky. This ship will make most battleship players rage at you if you're very good at it, but it's just a bigger upgrade compared to the previous Komsomolets. But yeah, if you're interested at playing the Russian carrier line, you will definitely like the second carrier you will get, because in my opinion it's such a huge upgrade, and it's great to have multiple ships. Multiple torpedo bombers attacking at the same time. Plus, it can also be easier hitting destroyers then. But anyways, that was all of the Soviet carriers. Now let's continue to the next carrier, which is Ranger. The Ranger is a Tier 6 American aircraft carrier found in the American tech tree. It's the second aircraft carrier you can get in the American tech tree. And the American carriers, in my opinion, are very beginner friendly, and I would definitely pick the American line if you're new to carriers or new to the game in general. The aircraft do a good amount of damage. The torpedoes, HE dive bombers, and the rockets are all very good. It's not the torpedoes are not especially great compared to the Japanese one, but they're definitely not bad at all. They're definitely a good pick. The HE dive bombers are good against most ships. It can cause fires on battleships. It can sink destroyers, and it can sink cruisers, and they're a good all-round bomber. As I said before, the planes have a good amount of HP, not as much as the British ones, but they definitely have a higher HP pool than the other nations. The Ranger, why I picked it at so low is because you will definitely lose a lot more aircrafts using the Ranger compared to the Langley. It does more damage compared to the Langley, but it's not as much as, for example, the Lexington as its tier. But the Ranger is probably a good ship if you're starting to learn the higher tiers of aircraft carriers, and you want to learn how to use them effectively at higher tiers. But if you're new to carriers or are pretty used to them either way, you will definitely be able to perform pretty well in this ship compared to what you might do in the other nations. But I would definitely give the Ranger a try, especially if you're going to play the Lexington or other carriers later on. But yeah, the Ranger is not a bad ship at all. It's a solid B tier ship, and yeah, decent planes, decent armaments, and decent all-round capabilities compared to some of the other carriers. You will not cause citadel damage on this ship, but you will definitely be able to cause fires and be able to sink most of the ships you might meet. But let's continue to the next ship, which is Independence. The Independence is an optional tier 6 American aircraft carrier that you can get if you grind the second aircraft carrier line. The Independence, along with the other American carrier lines that are under the Independence, have a unique ability that they can carry out. For example, as the Russian aircraft carrier, they send in, for example, all of the attack squadrons at once with the H rockets and the H bombers. Although, while doing so, the H bombers do not dive bomb, they carpet bomb instead of diving. The good thing about the Independence is if you have troubles losing your aircraft later on in the game or in general, this ship is a very good pick for you because it's very forgiving, considering that every 1 minute and a half you get all of your HE bomber squadrons back, or rockets depending on what you use. Also, what I saw on this ship is that the H rockets takes a lot longer to fire as of, for example, the other American H rocket planes, and it's kind of like the Russian carrier in that sense, considering that it takes a lot longer for the rockets to fire. The Independence can in a way be worse than a Ranger if a Ranger player is very good at game, but I consider the Independence to be almost as good. They're good in different aspects, but the Independence is a lot more forgiving, considering that you get your planes back very soon. Also, another thing that I forgot to note is that the H bombers and the H rockets have boosters when they take off, so they get an extra speed boost when they take off. That can be especially great if there's a destroyer or any kind of other ship near you that you might need to deal with quickly. Although, while having the option to, for example, get all of the planes back, it might be a slight disadvantage if you're in a panic situation, because you might not always be able to use the torpedo bombers. But yeah, that's about it for the carrier. Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to note that. I don't know if it's just for me or I've noticed, but I think the torpedoes on the Independence are faster than, for example, the Ranger, which is a great thing, because if you're having troubles hitting the torpedoes in the Ranger. But yeah, let's continue to the next ship, which is Langley. The Langley was my first ever aircraft carrier I got in the game. It's one of the most basic carriers. It's very simple to operate, and it can deal a significant amount of damage, and yeah, it's good against almost all of the ships you can meet. The good thing about the tier 4 Langley compared to some other tier 4 ships is that it has a lot of torpedo bomber squadrons. I mean, a lot of torpedo bombers in the squadron. For example, you send in 6 torpedo bombers at the same time, and 2 of them attack in a single attack formation. The Langley is probably the easiest aircraft carrier to learn, in my opinion. since it has a good amount of HP on the planes. The planes do a great amount of damage. The plane's HP is very good for its tier, and yeah, it's just a very good beginner carrier in my opinion. The reason why I put this higher than the Ranger and the Independence is because it's so much easier playing this compared to the Ranger and Independence, and it's easier to get the games where you get multiple kills or a lot of damage in this ship compared to some others. I would definitely pick the Langley as your first ever carrier if you're starting to grind any carrier you want to grind. But the Langley is a very good beginner for new players. It's just decent in almost all aspects. There can be some issues trying to learn it, but I haven't found any faults for what I've seen. Plus, it's just a way easier carrier to learn than, for example, the Hosho, which is the tier 4 Japanese carrier. The tier 4 Japanese carrier Hosho is a very good ship, but I wouldn't say that it's definitely beginner friendly, but it's not in the same level as Langley. But yeah, this ship will just give you the basics of learning carriers, and it just explains the entire American carrier line in a sense. But yeah, this carrier is a very good ship, and I would definitely give this ship a try for new players. Now we're getting at the next part, which is A tier, and later on S tier. Now I will go into the very good ships and the favorites in my opinion that I usually always play on. But other than that, let's continue to the next ship, which is Midway. The Midway is a tier 10 American aircraft carrier. It's hypothetically the last aircraft carrier in the line, although there's another one which is called United States, which is a tier star aircraft carrier. I don't know what to call it, but they have a star icon on them. But the Midway is for those not used to tier 10, they will probably have some issues trying to do well in the Midway, considering that your planes will get shot down very quickly by the modern anti-airs you will meet. The planes ordnance are very good on the Midway, even though my Midway is kind of new since I don't have the fully upgraded version. I still think the ship is very good and deserves to be at A tier. But in my opinion, it's not as effective as the Lexington for its tier. For example, the Lexington is easier to play as, and I believe that you can do almost the same amount of damage with the Lexington. Although the Midway also has amazing anti-aircraft fire, since you will definitely not be able to, you will probably not get blown up by planes. But that's about it, what it goes for compared to the Lexington in my opinion. Although it's a very nice thing to have the double torpedoes on the torpedo bombers. For example, I drop 4 torpedoes in each attack formation. Although I think you can drop 6 if you have the fully upgraded version, which is a very nice thing to have. And also, for example, as the Lexington, it gets access to the double bombs, which is nice on the dive bombers. Having it to another bomb extra is a very nice thing to have. But yeah, the next ship is Béarn. The Béarn is a tier 6 French aircraft carrier. It's the only French aircraft carrier in the game currently, and it will probably be the only one since, if I'm not mistaken, France only made one aircraft carrier, although I don't think it saw any action in World War II. But the Béarn in World of Warship is basically a, how should I describe it, a fighter aircraft carrier. You have a lot of interceptor fighters, which has a wide range of patrol range, and it has a lot of fighters in the consumable. The plane comes equipped with AP bombs and skip bombs. It feels kind of limited for me in a special way, considering I don't get any rockets or torpedoes, but getting to learn it actually makes it a very good ship and one of the best in my opinion. I've been in some odd situation with Béarn where I put fighters on the aircraft carrier's range, where, for example, the enemy aircraft carrier, and I managed to shoot down all of the fighters near the aircraft carrier. It's insane. But although having a great fighters for the aircraft carriers and stuff, it does kind of lack in speed for the bombs, and sometimes, for example, on heavy armored ship, the AP bombs can feel kind of weak compared to some other options like the Japanese AP bombs or the German one. It's nice to have 8 or 9 fighter consumables, since you never have to worry about it running out. It's basically as a support carrier in a way, but it's definitely one of the better aircraft carriers I've played, and I think this might get into S tier if I play it more than I have, because it's one of my newer ships. Although it's not really a strike aircraft carrier compared to some other options you might have. Although for striking, I think it's actually more effective than, for example, the British carriers or, for example, the Italian carrier. But it's definitely not a bad carrier. You can definitely do multiple things with this aircraft carrier. It's just a multi-role aircraft carrier. Plus, if you are very good at supporting teammates with fighters, this ship will be amazing, especially if you have the fighter consumable. This will probably be the best aircraft carrier for you. But not having rockets and torpedoes for me feels a bit limited. But it's definitely one of the better aircraft carriers I've played. But yeah, let's continue to the next A tier ship, which is Rhein. The Rhein is the first German aircraft carrier you get in the German tech tree. As I mentioned before when I've talked about Weser, which is below the Rhein, which I'm going to explain later on why I think the Rhein is better than the Weser. But as I said before, the German planes are... the torpedo bombers are pretty fast compared to some of the other ships for its tier, and the dive bombers dive straightly down, almost in a 80 or 90 degree angle, the thing that makes the Rhein better than the Weser, in my opinion, is that for its tier, it feels a lot more forgiving compared to the Weser, which requires more skill to use and can be harder to master. Plus, the Weser also has two attack formation in the torpedo bombers, which is nice considering that the torpedoes on the German aircraft carriers are very fast compared to maybe some other nations. Plus, the low tier of the Rhine makes it very good for consistent dive bombing with dive bombers, which is a neat thing to have. Although, as I said before, I am not the biggest fan of AP rockets. They can be good in some instances and can be very good in specific situations, especially against maybe some cruisers, but I like the diversity of the HE rockets more than the AP rockets, since the AP rockets can ricochet or maybe not penetrate. But the Rhine is a very good beginner ship for the German aircraft carrier line, and maybe the German aircraft carrier gets better after the Weser. But yeah, it's definitely a very good ship, in all honesty. Although the AP rockets, I haven't found many situations when they've been very useful in my opinion. But the torpedo bombers and the AP dive bombers are the main thing that makes this ship very good. Although it might, the torpedoes might not be as effective, for example, like in the Hosho. The Hosho might do more damage with the torpedoes, but it's nice to have some very fast torpedoes compared to maybe some other nations like United Kingdom, which has very slow ones. But yeah, this ship is definitely a very good pick for those starting carriers or those who just want to start the German aircraft carrier line. And in my opinion, it's one of the coolest ones, in my opinion, and one of the most fun ones to play. But anyways, let's go to the next ship, which is Saipan. The Saipan is a tier 8 American aircraft carrier. It's a very unique carrier since it's pretty small for its tier, and it has minor amounts of aircrafts, which can be a huge disadvantage at some points. Although, while having few aircraft, it has tier 10 aircraft on the aircraft carrier. Playing the Saipan is not for beginners, in my opinion, since it requires a lot of skill to use effectively, and you will probably in some scenarios lose all of your aircraft very fast. But if you play it very well and choose your targets very carefully, you can definitely dominate in this ship. It does a lot of damage for its tier. It can dominate with the torpedoes and the dive bombers, since they do a lot of damage. You get, for example, also the 3 tiny team rockets on the attack planes. If you use this aircraft carrier very carefully and shoot the target wisely, you can definitely be a very annoying target for the enemy. You can definitely deal above 100k in damage easily. But if you don't know what you're doing, you will probably have some troubles dealing probably 40k damage. It's not the easiest carrier to play, and it's definitely not the best, but you can definitely do very good in it if you do very well in it. But I mean, it can be an S tier carrier, but I don't think it goes above A tier. Some people might be irritated I put it at A tier and not lower, but I think that if you do very well in the carrier, in my opinion, it's not as bad as some people say it is. But if you do well in the carrier, you can definitely dominate with this carrier. But if you're doing bad in it, then you will probably expect some losses. But yeah, it's a okay-ish aircraft carrier. I know it's weird saying it like, well, I put it at A tier, but I've had some very good matches in it, and sometimes I've had some pretty okay matches in it. I wouldn't say it's bad, but it's definitely... Well, I think it actually deserves to be at A tier, considering that if you do well in it, then you will probably do a lot of damage. But anyways, yeah, you have the tier 10 planes, and it's a pretty fun carrier to play. It's almost the same size as the Independent, or not if the same, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it's an A tier carrier. Let's continue to the next ship, which is Hosho. The Hosho was my second carrier I got in the game, and it was actually one of the main reasons why I started playing carriers a lot later on. The Hosho used to be my favorite carrier in the game, and it's still a very fun carrier to play. But I wouldn't say this is my favorite anymore, but it's still among my top 3. The Hosho is a very good ship in multiple aspects. It has great, for example, the Japanese aircraft carriers, they have great torpedoes, good speed and great damage. The AP bombs are amazing against battleships and sometimes cruisers, depending on if you penetrate them and hit the citadel. The rockets are okay, although you will not really use the rockets very often on the Japanese aircraft carriers. But I would definitely say that the Japanese aircraft carriers are my favorite in the game, and the most fun to play and the best ones. The thing you have to be careful about, for example on the Japanese carriers compared to maybe the American carriers, is that you will definitely lose more planes later on the later tiers, and I think that the tier 10 aircraft carrier is supposed to be very great, which I will be excited to get when I manage to get it. But anyways, the Hosho, as I said before, the Hosho is a tier 4 Japanese aircraft carrier. It's the first one you get in the tech tree, and it's an amazing ship in multiple aspects. The carrier, almost all Japanese carriers are amazing at sinking, for example, battleships, because that's their main target usually, and they can do a good amount of damage against most other ships as well. But if somebody knows how to use the Japanese carriers very effectively, the other team will probably have some problems dealing with that carrier. But the Hosho is just great in almost all aspects. It's very fun to play. I would definitely recommend it to someone. Maybe I would definitely recommend the American line, maybe first for beginners. But I would pick the Japanese line after the American line, or if you'd like, you could also start with the Japanese line. But be ready for some challenges, because you might, if you don't know what you're doing, you will lose all of your planes very quickly. But yeah, the Japanese tech tree, like the American one, well, I wouldn't say basic, but they don't have anything, like they don't have skip bombers or carpet bombers, but they are very easy to play usually. But I think that I think the Japanese tech tree is just amazing for its aircraft carriers, and I think that the Japanese aircraft carriers have the coolest designs in my opinion. Although there are also some very cool American aircraft carriers too. But yeah, the Hosho is just a very great ship. I would definitely put it at A+. But yeah, that was it about A tier. Let's continue to the next tier, which is S, which starts with the next Japanese carrier, which is Ryujo. The Ryujo is the second Japanese aircraft carrier you get in the game. It's a tier 6 Japanese aircraft carrier. Compared to the Hosho, the Ryujo now has 2 attack formations of torpedo bombers instead of 1 each time. The Japanese aircraft carrier sends in a lot of planes, between 8 or more sometimes. And they usually have pretty small attack formations, but the Ryujo feels like a bigger upgrade compared to the Hosho because you can use torpedo bombers and most of the other planes more effectively in my opinion. For example, the torpedo bombers on the Ryujo is usually my main striking force on this ship, since you can fire 2 of them instead of, for example, 1 on the previous ship, and they do a lot of damage and are pretty easy to aim usually. The dive bombers are pretty good as well. I think they do more damage compared to the previous one for its tier. I mean the previous one, the Hosho. And it's generally a very good ship in my opinion. I think the Ryujo is one of the most fun ships in the game. It's not as fun as the Hosho in my opinion, but it's a lot easier, more calm in my opinion. The Ryujo is one of the it's one of my favorite aircraft carriers if we were not counting in the game, because I think I like the unique design. For example, the cruiser hull on the aircraft carrier base, and it's some people call it ugly, but I like the weird design of the Ryujo. The Ryujo is just, I would just say, it's just a way better upgrade compared to the Hosho. I don't have anything more to really say about it, except that you get more attack formations, easier to strike with the torpedoes. The torpedoes will do a lot of damage if you manage to hit all of the torpedoes. You can do between 8,000 to 10,000 damage, or sometimes even more if you hit both the torpedoes. The dive bombers can also do, for example, 6 to 8,000 or sometimes 10,000 if you're lucky. It's just a very fun ship to play in my opinion. It's I like the B5N2 and the D3A1 Val on ships, and the Zero as well, since they are both very iconic ships for me, and I like to play the aircrafts I remember from history a lot. But yeah, I like to play the historical ships on this aircraft carrier. It's just a very great ship. You will hit citadels with the AP bombs, and rockets are okay. But yeah, let's continue to the next S-tier ship, which is Lexington. the Lexington is a Tier 8 American aircraft carrier. As the American aircraft carriers progress the tech tree, they get amazing amounts of anti-aircraft fire, and their planes, in my opinion, are very good and very easy to get kills with if you manage to dodge flak, of course. But the Lexington, the great upgrade in the Lexington, which I would definitely recommend if you're trying to upgrade the planes, is that you should first try to research the double bombs on the dive bombers, since it's so nice to have those extra free bombs when you're dropping them on ships, since you can get wider amounts of damage compared to maybe only 3. But the Lexington is just a very good ship to cast fires on enemies. It does very good damage in general. It's good against all types of ships. It's just a very good ship in my opinion. The Shoukaku and Lexington, in my opinion, are almost as good. In my opinion, it's I'm gonna explain later on why I picked the Shoukaku higher up, but I believe that the Lexington and Shoukaku, they are almost at the same level in how good they are. But the Lexington is just a very fun aircraft carrier to play, and it's one of the coolest looking ones in my opinion, since I like the very large funnel on the side of the ship. The Lexington also has the option to pick between HVAR rockets or Tiny Tims. I picked the HVAR rockets since I prefer them over the Tiny Tims. They're both good in multiple ways, but I just prefer the HVAR compared to the Tiny Tims. There isn't really much more to say about the ship, since it's just a very good ship in general. And the good thing about the ship is that you will not get sunk by aircraft carriers very easily, since your anti-aircraft aircraft fire on the fully upgraded version of the ship is amazing. It can go up to 95 on anti-aircraft fire, which is amazing. The Lexington in Shoukaku is just a very good rival, in my opinion. They're both just very great ships. Also you send in 3 torpedoes on each attack round, which is very nice thing to do, since it's so much better compared to only 2 on the Ranger. But you will definitely have a lot of fun playing this ship when you get to the Lexington in the American aircraft carrier line, if you learn the late frontiers. But yeah, it's just a very great ship. Now let's continue to the next ship, which is, of course, Shoukaku. The Shoukaku, while it might not have the same amounts of anti-aircraft fire, I will explain why this ship is better than the Lexington in my opinion. The Shoukaku is a Tier 8 Japanese aircraft carrier, and it's my favorite one to play as in the game, since the AP bombs will cause it little damage most of the time. The torpedoes, while only sending in 2 each time, they do an amazing amount of damage, and the speed is pretty good as usual on the Japanese torpedo bombers. Although you have to keep in mind that you will lose your planes very fast against ships with great anti-air. But I personally think that the HP on the Japanese planes aren't as bad as I thought it would be on Shoukaku, since I almost lose the same amounts of plane on the Shoukaku compared to maybe the Lexington, or it might be on how I play maybe, but I think that the Shoukaku is just an amazing ship in general. I don't really use the rockets very often, since I don't think they're very useful against most ships compared to, for example, the Lexington, which has an amazing rocket planes, and also the planes aren't very fast compared to maybe the Lexington as well, or German aircraft carriers. They aren't slow, but they aren't as fast as you might want them to be. The torpedo bombers have great thing about the torpedo bombers. Let's say, for example, the anti-air on a battleship would be disabled, maybe. If you manage to hit all of the 10 torpedoes, which is not a very high chance, maybe like 4, 6 if you're lucky. But if you manage to hit 10 of them, you would be able to deal probably between 150 to 200,000 damage, which is insane. The Shoukaku is just a very fun aircraft carrier to play, and the AP bombers are actually also my main striking force on this ship, because they're so good as well. There isn't really much more to say, it's just an amazing ship. The Lexington and the Shoukaku is just a very good ship to pick between. I personally prefer the Shoukaku, and I think the Shoukaku looks better in my opinion. But the Shoukaku is just a better ship in my opinion. It's hard to play well, maybe compared to the Lexington, but if you manage to learn the basics of the Shoukaku and learn to use the AP bombs and the torpedo bombers effectively, you will definitely do a lot of damage, and it's just an amazing ship. I almost just want to put this in S+ tier, since it's my favorite. It's just the best ship in the game for what I have right now, in my opinion. The Shoukaku it's just a very fun ship to play as. The AP bombs and torpedo bombers do almost the same amount of damage, so you can pick between what suits you better. But yeah, that's about it for the Shoukaku. Now we're going into the last part of the video, which is short summary and of course some extra credits and stuff. The first part explains every ship tier from up to bottom. The bottom ones are the best ones in the tier. Anyways, thanks for watching my video, and I hope you all have a wonderful day or weekend. But yeah, I will probably see you on my next upcoming videos later on. But yeah, I want to say again, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.